Hi, my name's Steve Hill. I'm an ecologist, and today I'm excited to show you my rain garden and the rain barrel that has been installed in partnership with Green Venture. So before the rain garden was set up, it was just a typical urban front lawn. So it was all grass. One day in the morning, the Green Venture team and Avesi came and they kind of stripped some of the sod out and then kind of dug the bowl. But what was neat was they were able to kind of pile the sod around to create the berm. Also, as part of the design, the way that the rain comes into the garden is we have a little kind of rock pathway that runs up to the side of the house to the downspout that's draining about half of the roof from my house. And so the rain feeds into the rain barrel, and I can pretty much use that water that's captured at any time. I've got a little hose that's hooked up that I can kind of feed into the rain garden. And for times that I'm away, I've got a little drip irrigation hose that I can set up as well so that it doesn't all flow out at once. It can kind of put water into the rain garden over a couple of days. As part of the process, we were able to kind of modify it so that it actually has a better overflow spout put on it. So this is really handy because the barrel actually fills up within minutes, even under a modest rainstorm. So during any rain event, I'm now getting water that's coming off the roof. Instead of just going straight into the grass, is now going into the rain garden and infiltrating into the ground. So a few years ago now, I was reading some research by a fella named Douglas Tallamy, and he's a well-known ecologist in the US who's studying the relationship between getting kind of native plants back into urban yards and the benefit that can have for the entire food web. So by having native plants in your yard, you can foster different types of native insects, which then kind of feed all the different types of birds. And so I was really excited to kind of just start thinking about creating almost like a buffet on my property, and using native plants so that not just be able to use them because a lot of native plants are beautiful in terms of the different types of flowers and the diversity that you can promote, but also because they can have this small impact on the entire ecosystem. And so by putting in a rain garden, I was able to select quite a few native plants that are already being used. This is the first year it's been in, and I'm excited to see that there's all kinds of different butterflies. I've had different types of bees and wasps and flies that are pollinating the flowers. So it's just been a fantastic way to kind of reintroduce a small piece of biodiversity into my yard that I know is going to have an effect on the entire local ecosystem. So as an ecologist, one of the things that we find is important to think about when we're choosing the plants to put in a rain garden is to use something that's called using ecological analogs. And really all that means is trying to make sure we get the right plant in the right place for the type of habitat that it typically would prefer in the wild. So whether or not they like kind of really, really wet conditions, or they like wet conditions but can handle it, dry some of the time and so forth. So for example, in this rain garden, a lot of the plants that we chose for the lower part where it was going to be wetter most of the time are going to be plants that are typically found in a marsh type habitat, whereas those that are along the edge might be in areas that sometimes get a little bit of flooding, so kind of on the edge of a stream or something like that. And that just allows us to make sure that the plants that we choose and put in the different parts of the rain garden are going to be kind of matched with the right type of habitat. And then it also, that helps to make sure that the plants that we do put in are going to survive where we plant them. One of the other things about finding the right plants to use for the rain garden is to think about something called flowering time phrenology, which is trying to make sure we've got plants that are flowering throughout the season. So that's important, one, for pollinators, because you need different types of pollinators and insects that are kind of visiting your garden throughout the year, but also to create visual interest as well. So with this particular garden, we've got a range of plants that are flowering from right at the beginning of spring, so things like marsh marigolds, Virginia bluebells, and then throughout the season, we've got other things that are showing up like Canada anemone, which flowers a little bit later, and then now, which is probably about the peak, there's two different types of eupatorium. So there's boneset and spotted Joe pieweed. There's cardinal flower. There's blue lobelia. There's some goldenrods that are starting to flower, and then on the drier side we've got verbenas. So by having plants that are flowering throughout the season, again, it kind of creates one, visual interest, and you've always got something going on in your garden, which is really nice. And then also you're creating a space for pollinators that are going to be visiting throughout the season as well. So thank you for joining me today, and hopefully everyone has a good day.